They are videotaped. In fact, unfortunately, they shut down the cameras, so you haven't been able to see us when we've been going into session for the last week and a half. The Democrats turned off all the power and everything, so you can't view it on the internet or on the cable system. But we don't have a C-SPAN-like network, and that's something that we talked about in the rules changes that we proposed, that the state should go to a system like that where everybody could have access to it. Right now you have to have a certain package, but you can see televised and on the internet the proceedings of the body. But we want to go to more like we're calling it NISPAN, like New York SPAN,
sure,
like C-SPAN.
Now, was the session on June 8th videotaped?
Correct. In fact, that was broadcast all over the place. And you've seen it rebroadcast on like News 10, Time Warner, which is News 9 in the Albany area, but News 10 in central and northern New York. And yeah, that is all available to see, and it was being telecast that day over that system.
Mm-hmm. And so if the videotape shows the Democrats walking off the field, so to speak, why didn't the judge use the videotape as evidence that the vote was locked solid?
The judge, I guess, Lou, was really apprehensive because of the separation of powers to get involved in the legislative business, and said, you go work this out yourself. And you have to respect that judicial restraint in that regard. But he also dismissed the Democrats' case, which called for that everything that took place that day was illegal and improper. So by his dismissal, and again, each side is going to give you a different perspective, but from my opinion, his dismissal indicates that, look, I'm not going to listen to this case. I don't think you have a case. But beyond that, more importantly, I think what he was saying in that dismissal is, I don't want the judiciary should not be in the middle of the legislature right now, because our system of government in the United States is based on checks and balances and separation of powers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, go ahead. Any other questions, co-host?
No. I was just wondering, back to the videotape, who owns the videotape?
I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question. I would think it's probably the people of the state of New York, but in this case, the Senate. And you're right. I don't even know if we have a copy of that, because those in charge of the Senate have since locked everything down. In fact, they literally locked the gates to get into the Senate, and somebody came up with a key. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. You know what I mean? As your dad said, this is great stuff for a book. I got to keep writing everything down because I'll forget everything.
Well, you know what? I think that the Democrats are mad because they were one-upmanship here on the part of the Republicans, and they're mad.
Absolutely.
I would be too, to tell you the truth.
Well, absolutely. And, I understand that. You can be mad, frustrated, but you still got to go to work and get the job done. And I think in this particular case, that's what I find outrageous behavior right now. Yeah. And I think, as I told you, one of the tactics that I think they're employing now is the longer they continue to do this, they feel they can put enough political pressure and intimidation on these two renegades, and they did with one of them, and as a result of that they'll get back to being in the majority. And the other point they make is that the people elected this majority, and it's wrong that the Republicans tried to usurp the will of the people, but that's not true. And you know this, Lou. The people vote individually, and as a result of that, there were more of them than more of the other party, and that's how they formed the majority. But the people didn't go and vote on a specific majority to be in power. It just so happened when the elections were over, there were 32 Democrats and 30 Republicans, and that's how they formed the majority. But their conference has been pretty rambunctious and fractured since the very beginning. If you remember, last fall, there was 4 Democrats. They called them the Gang of Four, who really weren't tied into the Democratic leadership, and said that they wanted a lot of different things. 2 members were part of that, and former coalition too. And I think in this case, we as Republicans just felt that we had to put an emergency brake on, because the policies that are being put forward by the Democrat leaders right now are, in many of our opinions, really disastrous. And if you take a look at all these taxes that are really hitting people, I mean, it took a judge to step in to stop the tax on bottled water, and there's just so many things that people are now starting to realize because when the budget was passed and we were ranting against this stuff, people didn't really have an appreciation until now when they're starting to feel the pinch, because when they're going to register their car, or they're going to buy soda or something like beer and wine, you're finding all these new taxes now and fees.
Well, yeah, and this is, you have experience on the local level as being a former mayor of the city of Rome, New York, and also the former county executive of Oneida County, New York. The Oneida County Controller last week came out with a projection of what the retirement cost is going to be in 2011 or 2012. I mean, will go up tremendously. So, all of these stresses on local budgets and the state claiming that they have no money, which may be true or not true, but I'm not passing judgment here. So it looks like it's going to be stressful, for the next couple of years. So when you get this thing resolved in the state Senate, you still have other problems to face too. So I think that's where the Democrats are not doing the right thing here, because they're like a bunch of kids. I think there's more common sense in the kindergarten than there is with the Democratic segment of the New York State Senate. Can I say that and get away with it?
That's a great assessment, though. That's a perfect way to put it. In fact, I used yours is probably a better analogy than I made yesterday when talking to a local NBC affiliate. That it's kind of like fifth graders use better judgment, and know how to get along better. And you realize that if something doesn't go your way, you just can't take your ball and leave, And I think this is a problem. And I think that's where that's where the governor can really play a role. He is the titular head of the Democratic Party. He's the chief executive of the state of New York. He can go and insist that they respect the vote that was taken on June 8th, even though they don't like it, and that they find a way to work through it now. And I think, as I said to you, they're not going to be, and now that it's 31-31 particularly, they're going to have the opportunity to share everything. And then secondly, with the new rules, no matter who's in the minority in the future, you'll never be treated the way the Republicans treated the Democrats for many years, and Democrats treated the Republicans over the last 5 months.
The surprise here is the fact that the governor comes from the New York State Senate, if you know what I mean. I mean,
right.
He acceded to governor by virtue of being lieutenant governor and by his years in the New York State Senate. So if anybody should know how the Senate operates in New York State, he's got to be the one.
That's a great point, Luke. That's an excellent point.
So, I just hope that things do straighten out here real soon and they get over their mad and start working here in the interests for the welfare of the New York State residents. So you like the job so far?
Yeah, I have been I feel honored to have had the opportunity to represent the people of the 47th District. It's a great opportunity to do something to help meet to confront and meet many of the challenges that are facing us right now. And as I said, I try to work hard and do my best and to continue to communicate with people. And that's why this current situation is embarrassing and frustrating to me also, because I am a member of the Senate. And but it's been a great honor, and that's where my focus and priority remain on advocating and representing the people of the 47th.